Yeah, man. Oh, Tommy two times.
Tommy two times. I'm having a moment. I'm telling you. And
It's
you know what? What do we say? It's a minor
it's
inconvenience.
just a minor incontinence. I mean, inconvenience.
Oh, I'm having internet issues. I'm having connection issues, and uh,
Hey, you know what? It's
well,
all good though because we get to be together, which I always look forward
absolutely
to. Yeah.
right.
Thought about you this morning, hit some squats and some overhead press, and I know you're a He-Man when it comes to that overhead press and that bench press, man.
Ugh,
I was
yeah.
trying to channel some Brett energy this morning.
Right?
Yeah,
Throw that
man.
shit up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember I'd be struggling. You just grab it and you throw it up 5 times, and you're like, "That's it."
Uh, not quite. You're kind, but
It was
You, well,
close.
see, I had my back to you. You didn't see my face turning purple.
You were battling inner demons.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
I was controlling the Taco Bell from the night before.
I saw I saw a meme where it had like four little pictures and it said, something about it's really cool when you walk away from just blowing something up, and it had like different actors where it was like exploding in the background, like how in the movies they walk away and they hit the
Right.
button and the
Yeah.
fourth one was this guy walking out of a Taco Bell bathroom. That's coolness when you feel the slow walk away after blowing
Right.
up.
I did that. Those little stickers, I did that.
So speaking of fire, I have an interesting case conceptualization for us today, kind of a case
Oh,
study.
awesome.
So I want to share that, and we'll get into. We're probably not going to cover every single thing about it, but
Yeah.
an interesting topic. This is firefighter syndrome. So I have a client who's a retired, I mean, 30 plus year firefighter, worked in all the positions, including upper, and has been struggling after retirement. Some cardiac issues, some AFib stuff, but mostly what he's coming in for that I've been treating with EMDR has been waking up with incredibly elevated heart rate and some other things. He gets into the clinical, background into it, which is not my forte, but and there's no rhyme or reason to it. And so we've been talking about this firefighter syndrome, and I work with a lot of first responders. I work with police and sheriffs and firefighters and also military veterans. And so heavy with PTSD and trauma, but there's been some interesting things related to this firefighter syndrome, which is, physiological, mental and emotional, social, uh, neurological challenges that firefighters, after being on the job for years, have been experiencing. Just sleep disturbances, trauma that rears its ugly head, TBIs from like hazardous, toxic, materials plus smoke,
Right.
inhalation, things like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So he was agreeing that we could kind of discuss some of that on the show and maybe how EMDR can continue to be helpful or for anybody else who is a firefighter and has been experiencing some symptoms related to that, whether currently on the job or after the fact. Because
Right.
during his course, he had to compartmentalize a lot of things. I mean, that just comes with the territory. I mean, you've got to, be woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you've got to be on and you've got to go make a life or death decision for somebody, to treat, to eradicate the threat, put out a fire, save somebody, rescue somebody, transport them to the hospital, do emergency life-saving services, provide those type of services. When the person who's in shock and the family's in shock and they're coming at you, it's top 10, one of the worst days of their lives. And how do you contend with that? I mean, that takes a toll on
Right.
somebody. I mean, plus the
And not
physical
only how do
demands.
you do it, but how do you do it day after day after day after day
Right, right.
for 30
Well,
years?
well, and
Wow.
he shared something, and we've talked about this. We've talked about in those billets or careers, military first responders, how there's this gallows humor, and
Yeah.
he was talking about, how They can say whatever they want behind the brick wall,
Mhm.
at the station. But when
Right.
they're out in the community, they have to be professional. They have to be on. They have to deal with that. And imagine being woken up in the middle of the night, 24-hour shift, that's 24 on, 48 off, typically. Um, and it's not just like you wake up and you get to go make coffee and you kind of do your
Mhm.
meditation and then start your day. No, it's like fucking go.
Right.
What does that
Yeah.
do to a person? Well, then what this firefighter syndrome, who this psychologist at a University of Hawaii has been kind of talking about, been a proponent of, and wrote a book about it. And so we've been trying to manage his waking up in the middle of the night with like increased heart attack, feeling like you're gonna have a heart attack, heart rate, feeling you're gonna have a heart attack, and trying to bring things down because there's not an organic issue. There's not a real, other than having a history of AFib, there's not a real like you don't need to go get a bypass or go have or be on medication or it's just no rhyme or reason just happens. And sometimes it'll be weeks in between and then an episode will occur and then sometimes it'll be every other day. So we've been using EMDR and that has been helpful. And we just started doing that. So I'm eager to
Right.
see where this goes. And so I want to kind of talk about that. The sleep disturbance has been the predominant challenge for him, and then the tachycardia.
Yeah. Yeah, I have not really don't know much about firefighter syndrome, but you think about the unique aspects of that profession, and there's some similarities with other first responders for sure, but I think firefighter syndrome is unique in the fact that you're woken up in the middle of the night at 2 in the morning, and you go from 0 to 100 instantly,
Yeah,
and your brain and your body has to do that. And imagine the toll that would take on your heart and
right,
your nervous system and your brain. I mean, it- it's happened to us, like regular folks, right? When like the dog starts the kids start screaming or the dog, is going crazy or,
right.
something, there's a big noise outside or something. I mean, it's happened to us occasionally
Yeah,
and we freak out and we're up for the next 2 hours and, we're like, I still,
right.
trying to come down from that. But could you imagine? I mean, that's your life, that's your profession. And
Yeah.
imagine the toll that takes on particularly your cardiac system.
Right. Right. Well, we're seeing it. I mean, and we see
Yeah,
in that line of service, divorce rates, through the roof. Same thing with police,
right.
PTSD. I mean, you imagine the amount of traumas that are privy to. I mean, like 400% more than the average person walking around, and you've got to compartmentalize that and be on, but that takes a toll. I mean, we're talking about another brick in the wheelbarrow that you're pushing around, and then eventually that wheelbarrow dumps over and everything spills out.
And there's a lot of documented research about how people that work night shifts, it affects their cardiac system, right?
Yeah,
It's just not, it's out of your normal circadian rhythms, and it just is not how your body and brain was meant to function. And yes, people get used to it, but it does take a toll. And
yeah,
I mean, imagine your car, like you start it up and you hit it, you go 100 miles an hour instantly. Your car is not going to handle that, over time. Sure, it'll respond for a while, but I mean, it's the same thing with your body. You're training your heart. I mean, your heart is a muscle, your brain is a muscle, just like your biceps and your calves and whatever. And you have to exercise them, but you just don't go, jump out of bed and then try to squat 400 pounds, and that's not how it
right,
works.
right, right.
Because you and I have done some stupid shit crap like that before, and it's never worked out in our favor, Tom. It's
Right.
never worked out in our
Never,
favor.
no. Can you imagine like having to wake up and then put on all that, your bunker gear and your tanks and your, respirators and all that. I'm not sure exactly what they call it, but and a helmet, and then go provide life-saving services to
Right,
to somebody,
right,
where you can't lugging around, yeah, probably almost close to feels like 400 pounds.
right. So you can imagine the toll it does on your cardiac system.
Right.
You can imagine the toll it does on your body just from going to, asleep, no stretching, no whatever, to, maximum exercise. So you got to deal with that. But then imagine what that does to your brain. You know,
Yeah.
your brain is a muscle. So imagine you jump out of bed, you're trying to, keep all systems going, and your brain is like, what am I walking into? Because I could be walking into a situation where my life is in extreme jeopardy.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And
I mean,
imagine the cortisol that will run through your course through your body,
right.
trying to come to terms with, what am I going to walk into here?
Uh-huh.
How am I going to keep everybody and myself safe?
Right. And I mean, one thing that he highlighted is the fact that it's not just the person or people, whatever you're arriving on scene to help with that is in jeopardy. If you fuck up, then potentially your job is in jeopardy. And if you've put all this time, I mean, it takes a lot,
Yeah.
physically, mentally, and emotionally, the demands of actually becoming a firefighter and then actually getting stationed, getting picked up. I mean, that's rigorous in and of itself. Now imagine, okay, you are a couple years on the job and you do something jacked up or you make a mistake and, then you potentially get fired and lose that, like that's
Right.
significant. So, I mean, the family is hit pretty hard too,
Mhm.
because, they're away, periods of time. So a whole day they're away. And then when they come back, they've got to recover from that shift. And then they got
Mhm.
to go back in 2 days. And then
Right.
they working holidays, they're working disasters, they're working. Hey, in Florida, we've got the hurricanes. They're working during the hurricanes,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. It's
environmental
amazing.
stressors.
It's
Yeah.
amazing anybody will do that job.
I know, right?
We're
And
selling it, Tom. You and I should be like the poster children for recruitment for the Firefighters
right.
Association.
And we did the math when we were talking the other day. And I thought that was interesting because I hadn't really done okay, normally people work 40 hours a week, okay, on average. That
Mhm.
works out to be 2,000 whatever some odd
2080. Yep.
per year. Firefighters, if you do the math, 48 or 24 on, then 48 off, they're working over 3,000 hours per year.
Mm. Yeah.
And they're not getting paid well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. For what they do. Yeah, for sure.
So to your point, it's amazing that anybody does do that
Right.
job. But
Right.
they're the first person we want, you know.
Hmm.
If we're in a crisis and it's emergency, we want
Right.
we want them there as fast as possible, right?
Right.
We
Everyone
want them
digs
to be
on
on.
police and military and firefighters and, you know, all
Yeah.
that, but they're the first person that you're looking for when you're having a problem.
Yeah. Well, and
Mm.
they come home and, spouse doesn't necessarily, I mean, they can understand and appreciate the work that they're doing and
Right.
what they may be seeing, but I mean, your spouse wants to be helpful and supportive and tell me about what's happening. And that's the last thing that they want to do is talk about work
Right.
at work.
And imagine the stress that that puts on the family members too. I mean, it's a very atypical, and I'm sure families get used to it, but it's a very atypical situation in where your spouse is gone for 24 hours and you may or may not be in contact with them. And if
Right.
you're not in contact with them, you're always wondering, are they okay? What's going on?
Exactly. Yeah.
Are they safe kinds of things? And then, just the no contact, you're still running a household with kids and bills and everything else. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times they feel like they're on their own, and then, it's,
Yeah.
it could be a very disruptive kind of situation. So it's stressful on, the point I'm trying to make is it's stressful on the family as well. They
Yeah.
just, they have to learn to adapt as well.
Right. So it's not something that you can just turn off even when you retire. And this is what this gentleman is up against is that fight or flight mode
Hmm.
is severely kind of stuck on. And I mean, to the point where he feels like he's got to be in charge of, take care of, he's got the whole world on his shoulders. And when people are trying to say, hey, offload some of that. Like, spouse, I'll handle some stuff. Like, I'll be here, I'll be of support. I can do some stuff too. It's hard to just like, dump that when you're so used to being the guy.
Right,
Right.
right. And there are a lot of situations with people that experience trauma where, out of the blue, they'll get, always a fan of the word triggered, but they get triggered, and for whatever reason it happens, their nervous system lights up like a Christmas tree, and their brain is in fight or flight mode, because of a stress reaction to trauma.
Yeah.
And there is no immediate danger, it's all perceived danger.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that? And it's you and I work a lot with people of how do you physiologically manage that? Well, you just keep saying it's a perceived threat, there is no real threat, there is nobody with an axe in front of me, there's nobody pointing a gun at my head, there is nobody in the room that's threatening my safety. So I'm in no immediate danger. I just calm down. You work on the breathing, all those
Right.
relaxation things to
Yeah.
reassure your body, brain, nervous system that it's a perceived threat.
Yeah.
So your body is, yeah, responding to the perceived threat, not an actual threat.
So, to our intervention using EMDR, this has been going on during sleep for this gentleman. And I would venture to say, in particular, it's during REM sleep that it's being
Mhm.
interrupted.
Well,
Um,
that makes sense.
yeah, the cardiac stuff, and then I mean nightmares, a whole host of things happening. And I think this is related to, okay, he's retired and he's no longer working in the fire service. He's now doing some part-time hours at a hospital or something some such like that. And so now his brain is trying to all the things he compartmentalized over the years of service,
Mhm.
like trying to actually deal with that in a productive, healthy way. I mean, deal
Mhm.
with all those traumatic things. And so it's coming up. This is when our minds work on it. This is when our brains work on it during REM sleep. And so this is what's trying to happen because now he doesn't. He's in a safe place. Everything is good. Life is fantastic. Um, and so he's like, what the fuck? Why? Why is this happening? Well, we've got to deal with all that stuff that you haven't been able to deal with, or you didn't deal with it because you couldn't, because you had to be on.
Right. Yeah. So now your brain is really trying to reconcile that. I do some critical incident work, and I had a really tough one this week. And just explaining to people about stress reactions to trauma and how your body, brain, nervous system lights up because of, when you have those stress reactions to trauma. If,
Yeah.
and I have to explain that there was this critical incident. You're having these symptoms like you feel like you can't breathe, you can't sleep, you're seeing the image over and over again, you're irritable, you're spacing out, you're zoning out, you're sad, you go from being fine to just in tears. Those are stress reactions to trauma, and actually the good news, bad news is it's supposed to be happening after a traumatic
Right.
event.
Hmm.
And that's just one traumatic event. What we're talking about with firefighter syndrome is they live in from traumatic event to traumatic event, repetitive
Yeah.
trauma, that kind of thing. But just for folks that are not in
Hmm.
that repetitive trauma kind of situation, the good news, bad news is that's where your brain is trying to work it out. Your brain
Yeah.
is trying to make sense out of something that doesn't make sense. So be kind
Hmm.
to yourself, be very gentle, give yourself a break,
Hmm.
know that it's okay, and just, work on calming yourself, calming your nervous system. And hopefully, what we want to see is it gets less intense and less frequent over time.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't, that's for 6 months or longer. That's the official definition of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right. So I'm trying to intervene with men and women who are currently serving,
Mhm.
in any one of those fields that we mentioned, to include healthcare, to
Yeah.
talk about this stuff that's going on, because this is how it normally works. As we experience a trauma, we want to be with supportive people. We want to talk through it. We want to
Mhm.
process it in a different way, so that it doesn't continue to show up for us in our lives. And the misconception and the culture too with those fields, especially with firefighter, first responders
Mhm.
type, police, is that, and military too, is that you don't want to talk about it because you don't want to be a pussy. You don't want to appear to be weak. You got to be strong, for men and women. And you don't
Mhm.
want to talk about that stuff. Plus, it's bringing it all up again. And you
Right.
don't know what happened to the person. You don't know if they were okay because you got them to the next level of care, but who knows what happened after that. And you've got to be ready for the next call. And you got to sleep and you got to eat and you got to exercise and you got,
Mhm.
all that stuff. So they don't want to talk about it. And the family too, is can be helpful, even though they don't totally understand what it is that you're privy to. But to be supportive, they can just listen to you to talk about it. Better to talk about that stuff as soon as you can to dump it, and to look at it from a different light. I did all I could do. I helped in this regard. I feel really good about the things that I do, and this is my purpose and my mission in life. This gives me a tremendous amount of meaning. Talking about it is tremendously helpful, more helpful than you think it would be. Instead of, I don't want to talk about it, I want to stuff it down because
Right.
it's there eating away, and eventually it's going to rear its ugly head in some way, whether that's a physical malady manifestation or just psychological trauma that comes up and you get triggered, and you stay in your head, live in your head, and avoid certain situations and the like. So, um,
And they a lot of folks we experience don't want to talk about it because I've already lived it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to
right.
keep reliving it over and over again. And the other thing is this is what I do. I just stuff it down and it will go away, right? If you just
Yeah.
keep shoving it down deeper and deeper, it'll go away. Surprise, it won't. Um, so, but that's what their experience is. And I think we just need to normalize that. And what you and I do, Tom, is we try to educate people, not only the individual patients that we see, but you and I have a lot of experience doing community work. And it's helpful to explain this to people at large about, just this whole concept of trauma, traumatic experiences, stress reactions to trauma, physiological responses, and how it is that we help take care of it and take care of each other. And
Right.
that's why, in some of our community work, we've worked a lot with systems in creating kind of peer responses and other supportive means so that people in these kinds of positions and careers don't get to the end of their career and end up like this guy. All
Right.
right.
Yeah.
We want to work with the young folks out of the gate so that they don't end up with a lifetime full of stuffing.
Yeah. Now, for this gentleman, he's got a lot of protective factors, which are huge. Very loving, supportive family. Finances are on point. Everything is set in place that he can experience and go through all these things, and is going to come out through the other side, stronger, more resilient. But not everybody at the end of their career ends up that way.
Yeah. And the good thing, we've talked about EMDR before, and maybe we need to talk about it again, but EMDR is a great therapeutic technique for several reasons. It creates REM sleep while you're awake so that it's like REM sleep on steroids, where it can really hyper work on focusing on processing these old traumas, number one. But number two, there's not a lot of talking involved. So,
Right.
these folks that don't want to talk about all this stuff over and over again, EMDR techniques allow them to not have to do that.
Exactly. You don't have to relive it. You
Nope.
just like you're watching a movie, you
Yep.
can just sort of observe it. And this interrupts EMDR through bilateral stimulation, interrupts the normal brain processes, whereby creating new, more positive neural networks.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
love that.
EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's desensitizing. You don't forget the memories. You're just less emotionally reactive to them.
Yeah.
And it's reprocessing. You still remember all your memories. You just think about them in a different way.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Reprocessing. They're not as emotionally gut wrenching as they used to be.
Right. Instead of that fight or flight being triggered, oh my God, I'm in danger. It's okay that
Yeah.
that happened, and this is what I learned from that, and
Yeah.
this is what I'm going to do moving forward.
Yeah. And I'll have to tell everybody, Tom is the best one of the best EMDR therapists that I've ever encountered. We got trained together, and Tom is 10 times the EMDR therapist I am. It's just I just don't do it a lot, but just the outcomes that I have seen from people that go through EMDR therapy are incredible.
Tremendous, absolutely tremendous. Then thank you. That's sweet of you to say.
So if you're in the Central Florida area and you need a good EMDR therapist, there's Tom sitting right there for you.
Well, thank you for that plug. Then thank you guys for listening to us. I know we only scratched the surface on this, so if you'd like
Yeah.
for us to talk about more, talk more about firefighter syndrome or first responders and what their experiences are, or more about EMDR, whatever you need, like
Yeah.
send us a note, send us an email, like questions at therapyonzip.com. We're here to help you. Hey, if we get something wrong, like let us know.
Uh-huh.
If you think we're full of
We
it,
love to be told we're wrong. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we're not
All right.
infallible. But
Correspond with us.
hey, this is based on our experience. So,
Yeah.
but go ahead. I dare you to tell us we're wrong. We'll see what happens with that.
We'll probably agree.
Sure. You're like, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. Whatever.
whatever.
I'm an idiot.
Isn't that what comes with wisdom? The more that you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So thank you to this gentleman for giving me the ability to kind of share some of his story. And I know I just scratched the surface and didn't, left some stuff out, but thanks again for allowing us to do this show.
All right. And I apologize for my technical difficulty. I feel like I'm like in a cave back here. Like, hello. Oh, well.
It's it's all good. You look marvelous. Everything is fantastic. We got to come together.
It's
We
a
got to do a
minor,
show.
it's a minor inconvenience, Tom.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, one of these days, like I'm going to show up at the emergency room with a jart like in my head, and the nurse is going to go, "What? What happened?" It's a minor inconvenience.
Just a minor
It's a minor
inconvenience.
inconvenience. Come on, just grab that shit. Just yank that shit out. Go
Can you just put your foot on the side of my head and pull?
ahead. Come
Um,
on, I need 2 points on that one.
man, we finally finished the pit, and I mean, what
Oh,
a phenomenal show! But I mean, I
great.
felt like that shift was never going to end for those people,
I
huh?
know. Tom, you and I have had that shift before.
Yeah.
We have had that shift. Ugh.
Hmm.
They're filming season 2 of that show right now.
It was fantastic. I'm looking forward to it.
Great show. Yeah. Tom, always good to see you.
Thank you. Appreciate you and all your experience and education and being here. I couldn't do it without you.
Oh, ditto. I'm a pale, I'm a, I'm a pale copy compared to you, Tom.
Thank you. Well, you guys out there, send us your comments, send us your questions, and we'll do our best to attend to them and to be helpful and be of support to you. So thanks again for listening.
All right. Questions at therapyunzip.com.
Yeah, that's it.